Hi folks, Mike Lambo here, and today I am looking at my game Assault of Vimy Ridge. So this is a World War I battle that took place in northeastern France and involves the Canadian Corps fighting together for the first time, trying to clear Vimy Ridge of the German defence forces. This is the instructional playthrough, so this will be a slightly long-winded video explaining rules and so on. I'll try to do a quicker playthrough at some point, but this is the one. I know people appreciate these instructional videos, so bear with me whilst we look at this in a bit of detail. So this is a printout of the book, which is, at the time I'm making this video, not actually published yet, but will be soon. It's the final version, so this is what it will look like. As ever, you've got most of the rules and all the charts and things on the left-hand page, and the various mission maps on the right-hand page over here. This one you can see is tile-based, as I call them, so squares, if you like, rather than the usual sort of hexes that I have in a lot of my war games. Just suits this one better, I think, particularly with the kind of horizontal, mostly horizontal kind of trench layout and so on. It's a bit easier to depict that on squares. And I kind of wanted 8 directions of fire for this one as well, so you can fire diagonally and so on. So a bit of difference. Again, hopefully the graphics are improving. So we've got fairly clear trenches here with sandbag positions. We've got bunkers, trees, rocks, and craters from artillery and mortar fire and so on. So various bits of cover that we can use there. We've got some tiles numbered in red, some tiles numbered in black, and we'll see what they do as we go through. This one comes with counters, and I've made these counters. So you can see I've lined up at the bottom here my Canadian units and the German units, starting units at the top there. There are other counters just out of screen there, which I'll draw on as and when needed. These come in the last page of the book, as ever, so you can remove that page and mount them onto some fairly thin card, or whatever card you want, really. I mean, I've used this one, which is a millimetre or so. Now, I've done a separate video you'll find on my channel, where I've actually shown you how to make these counters, because the good thing about these counters is they are double-sided. So in the back of the book, the back page of the book can be sort of removed and sort of stick the front side of the counters to card, cut out round the very outside, and then stick the backs on before you then cut all the individual counters out. And the two are sort of mirrors, and they match up, and you get this kind of double siding of all the counters, which is quite useful in this game when you're flipping to show counters being pinned, which is what the other brighter red side is for. We'll come to that again when we get going in the game. You don't have to use the counters, as ever. You can play these in whichever way you choose. You can write on the maps themselves, but obviously I don't recommend that. Consistent or persistent rubbing out of pencil does eventually take this print off the page, so it's better to put an acetate over it, or a plexiglass or something, and use your dry white markers on that. So still perfectly capable of doing that. Perfectly usable system for this game as well. And there are other suggestions in the book itself. You can use any old counters, you don't have to use these particular counters. There are numbers on these counters, I'm sure you noticed, but again, that's just for convenience. Those numbers are shown on this page here, so again, you don't have to have counters that depict those particular numbers. It just makes it's just a quality of life thing. So if you can make the counters, if you want to make the counters, again, took me about half an hour. As I say, there's a video on my channel showing you how to do that. So over here, let's read this first bit of flavour text. This is Campaign A, you'll see there, Mission 1, all right, dealing with the 3rd Division. So there are 4 divisions of the Canadian Corps that attacked Vimy Ridge, and this book is set up so that there is a campaign for each of those 3 divisions, and each campaign has 3 missions in it, so 12 missions in total, and each campaign for each division has 3 missions. So the idea is you play, obviously, for Campaign A, which deals with the 3rd Division, you'll play Mission 1. Obviously, at the end of Mission 1, there's a quick bit of admin to do where you can bolster your forces a little bit. And then you move on to Mission 2 and play with those units which survived Mission 1. Okay, so you're expected to win Mission 1. Okay, it doesn't mean you always will, but it's the expectation is you will generally win the first mission of each campaign. It's the level of your victory that then dictates how many units you take forward to mission 2, which perhaps in the first couple of campaigns you would probably be expected to get through mission 2, maybe in campaigns C and D, that's probably a bit touch and go. And then on to mission 3 with whatever units survive mission 2, of course. And at that point you may be down to, just a small handful of units if you've been, if you haven't played it with the right tactics, or you've been unlucky, or whatever. And if you win the campaign, obviously, by succeeding all the way through mission 3 of each campaign. So that's how it works. That's how this game is set up to be. There's no great bookkeeping between missions. All you've really got to do is just keep a note of which of your units survived. So if you use the counters, you can just keep them in a separate bag or whatever. If you don't use counters, literally just write a pencil note on the back of the book, or wherever you want, which will take no more than 1 minute to do. It's not it's not huge records to keep or anything. So that's sort of the framework of this particular game. So as I say, the information's over here. So I'm going to do here the first mission of the first campaign, just because that makes sense. Okay, so this is the 3rd division, and then this is therefore their initial assault. The title's over on this map as well, for those that copy them, so you can always match the maps up nice and easily. It says the 3rd Division, commanded by Major General Lewis Lipset, encountered the least resistance due to the fact that the heavy artillery bombardment had crushed most of the German positions. However, that did not mean it was an easy task, and the objective here is to clear all enemy units off the mission map to progress to mission 2. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. It then gives us the starting units. So for the Canadians, which is me, we've got 6 rifles, a grenade squad, MGs and sergeant. And for the Germans, we have 8 rifles, 4 MGs and snipers. And then we've got set up here. So we'll do that in a moment. Just before we do that, I just want to say a little bit about the assault on Vimy Ridge generally. This was 1917. And, sort of after the Battle of the Somme and so on, the sides had begun to appreciate that those kind of historical tactics of, old-fashioned sort of trench warfare were not successful, to say the least. So the assault on Vimy Ridge was carried out very much with the idea that command would be sort of pushed down through the ranks a little bit, so that more junior officers and NCOs could make decisions on the fly. Squads were also beginning to be specialised, so particularly you would have, for example, squads of expert grenade throwers, and machine gun teams, and rifle squads, obviously. So beginning to get that squad tactics, or those squad tactics which are reflected more heavily, obviously, in more modern eras from World War II onwards and so on. So we're starting to get a bit of that here. So Vimy Ridge wasn't a kind of, lasting forever battle where we're making 5 yards a day, this way or that way or whatever, like we sort of think of when we think of World War One. The Battle of Vimy Ridge was over in about 4 days, in fact, in total. So this was a quick, effective assault using new tactics. Fortunately, the Germans themselves hadn't quite got to grips with their own revised defensive trench tactics in time for Vimy Ridge. The other thing about Vimy Ridge was the Allies used what was called a rolling artillery barrage. So they kind of pounded the whole area with artillery, but then had this sort of rolling barrage where they pounded from front to back, sort of leading up the ridge, if you like, if you can imagine, with the Allies then running in behind that, keeping as close as they dare to that barrage as it moved up the hill. And that's something else I've tried to reflect in this game. Okay, so as ever, when designing games, I tend to think about what are the key aspects of this particular battle or war or whatever it might be, and I try to implement those things into the game. The caveat, as always, is this is a simple game. It's perhaps a bit more complicated than my others. It's perhaps a slight notch up the complexity ladder, not a huge one, and it's still nice and clear. The rules are still crystal clear. But it is, perhaps a little bit more complex, but it does reflect those tactics, those developments which occurred, sort of later on in World War One, if you like. All right, so let's see how that's done and how that plays out. Right, so let's set up first of all. So it says here, set up. Germans, place 1 MG on each of the 2 bunkers. Okay, that's nice and easy. So we take a German MG and place it on that bunker, and a German MG and place it on that bunker. Yeah, it can be anywhere in that square or that tile. It's better to leave the bunker showing to some degree. You know, the fact that it's in that tile means it's in that bunker. For the other 2 MGs, roll a d6. Add 3 to the result and place them on the relevant black numbered tiles, which will have sandbag icons on them. So roll a 6, and so that MG goes on, what did you say, add 3, didn't it? So that's 9, so that one goes there behind that sandbag icon, and the other one gets a 5, so that MG will go on 8 behind that sandbag icon. So quite far down actually, which is not always the best for us. It could have appeared anywhere up here on these sandbags, but they've started on these 2 here. Okay, I should say, it does say here all German units start facing down the map, which is why I'm pointing them down. You can see these counters have a facing on them, this sort of triangle pointing down here, and it's important to denote that. So whatever you use to play my games, for this one you do need to mark the facing of the unit, which can be any of the 8 directions out of a tile, including diagonals. Then it says roll a d6, add 1, so let's do that. So that's a 5, that's becomes 6. And place the sniper on that relevant black numbered tile. So on tile number 6, we're going to have the German sniper. Okay, again is there. Okay, so these units are in a trench. Okay, so this trench, any tile this trench covers or touches is a trench tile, and they get the cover of the trench. Okay, so you don't need to differentiate between sort of there and there. Again, if you're in that square or that tile, then the unit is deemed to be in that trench and therefore in that cover. Same with trees and rocks and craters. Any unit that's on it gets the benefit of that cover. Okay, again, we'll see how that works as we go through. And finally, it says, and it does say re-roll any duplicates. So if I'd rolled a sniper roll and it had already had an MG on it, I'd just roll again and move it somewhere else. It then says place the 8 rifles on all the remaining empty trench tiles. So these 8 German rifles that we were told we had at the start then go on all the empty trench tiles. So I just fill those up, fill these trenches up with the German rifles. Again, doesn't really matter where they go in the tile. The important thing for the moment is all the trenches are filled with rifles, and there are 8 of them, and they're all facing down the map because that's how they start. Okay, they're all facing down the map. So the facing obviously just follows the row of tiles that they're on, and that's important because that's where units shoot. Okay, they can't, this rifle either shoots down this row here or it shoots down this diagonal here if it faces that way, or across that way or up that way. Units fire along the line of their facing only. So this rifle, for example, here can't shoot into this tile because it's not on a, it'll either be facing that way or that way. And so nice simple line of sight rules. You just follow the particular line of tiles. So again, we'll see how that works. Nothing blocks line of sight other than enemy units. And that's really just because, not so much that the line of sight is blocked, but the rule is that units always shoot the closest units to them. So if I've got a Canadian unit in this sort of tree here, and these trees and rocks facing upwards, it would always shoot this rifle guy here. It can't shoot the sniper or the rifle behind, because it'd always aim at this first one. So it's not so much that it can't see these, it's just the rule is it will always shoot the closest. Okay. The most imminent danger, I guess, is, in the heat of battle is what's going on there. So that's the setup. We've done that for the Germans. So now we can say, it says, for the Canadians, it says, then place the 9 Canadian units. So these are my starting units here. I'm starting with, up here it says 6 rifles. So I've got here 1 grenade squad, which I've got there, and an MG team, which I've got there, and a sergeant, which I have here. Okay. So I've got 9 units, and I can place those anywhere on the bottom row. That's this row here, obviously. Maximum 3 units to a tile with any facing. In this game, there will only ever be 1 German unit in a tile. There can never be 2 German units in a tile. German units can't move into tiles with Canadian units. My rifles can move into a tile with German units, but no other units can. I'll deal with that one again when we get to it. But the Canadians can have up to 3 units in any one tile. So I've got to think about how I'm going to set this up. And again, you know, because this is an instructional playthrough, I'm focusing more on getting things right and explaining things rather than tactics. So I'm sure I'll make some tactical errors, and I could do things probably much better strategically and so on if I had more time to think about it. But I don't want to make the film any longer than it needs to be. But first things I can note is, these MGs are facing straight down these columns. Their range is 3. Okay, so they're they fire with a 5 strength, and we'll deal with that when we get to it. But their range is 3, 1, 2, 3. So they're already they're shooting into these tiles already. Now there's a chance they could move around before they do that or whatever, but at the moment they're firing into these tiles. So it would be, if I do put units in these tiles, it's got to be with a view to moving them out there pretty quick. Rifles are less harmful. They've only got attack strength of 1. Rifle fire in World War I not particularly effective in this situation, particularly from the Canadian troops who are running along as they sort of shooting from the hip or whatever. Very much about machine gun fire, snipers, grenades, mortar fire, is all that kind of stuff is in the game, and that's more more effective and more likely to get rid of your troops. The key for the Canadians here really is to get up as quick as they can. The reason for moving up quickly is because the Germans will reinforce, so we want to get up before they reinforce too much, and recover also from that artillery barrage, which we'll deal with in a minute. Plus, the German mortar fire lands on these red numbered squares, so the sooner I can get beyond those and up into the trenches myself, then my guys are safe from this what can be rather nasty mortar and artillery fire from the Germans. So I've got to watch out for that. So there's no turn limit on this game, but there is a need for me to balance my kind of caution about not running into machine gun fire in particular, or sniper fire, against my need to get out of the mortar and artillery fire, and to get up into close combat, because that's how I'm mainly going to deal with killing a lot of these units. Yes, my MG is quite powerful. It's got an attack of 4. My grenade squad are very powerful with an attack of 6, although the range is only 1, so they've got to get up close. But the best way, and the most effective way of emptying trenches in World War I was to get your rifle squads in particular into those trenches, bayonets fixed, and get on with the job at close combat. So that's what we're going to do here. And whenever one of my units moves onto a German unit, onto the same tile, it automatically destroys that unit. So getting my rifle squads charging and up into there is what I need to do. But I need to keep them preferably out of machine gun fire, and I need to pin, in particular, the machine gunners and so on, as I can, to keep, to stop them mowing down my rifle squads as they go. So that's kind of how things work. So I've got to think about how I'm going to set all this up. This works on an orders basis. It's not a restricted orders method like some of my other games have been. You'll see it's slightly different. The number of orders is important, and the number of orders is dictated by the proximity of my other units to the sergeant. So I don't want to spread out too much, because that makes ordering my troops more difficult. But I also don't want to cram them all onto too few tiles, because that makes them more suspect to, or subject to, mortar fire. So we can really tell there's lots of things to think about in this game, lots of things to balance as you go. So I'm going to think about what I'm going to do here, and I'm not going to think too hard because I don't want to labour things too much. The sniper is also shooting straight down this middle row, which is not, down this middle column, which is never the best thing. Their range is 5, so even if they're on the back, they can reach this bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's only 6 lines high. So having a sniper shooting down this middle column is never great, because it sort of splits the battlefield into 2. I don't really want to have anyone on this line here. Snipers are pretty deadly with their 6 dice, range of 5. They also ignore cover, so not ideal. This side is probably slightly weaker just because that MG is further back than this one. So I think I'm probably going to start with here, where this MG here is dangerous. If it turns, it's shooting down here. There's no great starting point for all this really. So I'm going to put my sergeant down here for now. I'm going to put a couple of rifle squads with him. I'm going to put a couple of rifle squads on here. No, I'm not already not going to do that. I'm going to put the sergeant in the middle, because I do want to get a decent amount of orders on this first go. So I'm going to start like that, knowing that I go first, so I can always move around a bit depending on what happens with the artillery barrage, of course, because I've got that to do as well. So I'm going to put him like that. I've got my sergeant in the middle, which means he's on the same tile as a couple of rifles, and he's also only 1 tile away from all the other units, which means they will accrue orders, and we'll see how that works in a moment. All right. You do need quite a lot of dice, or preferably need quite a lot of dice for this game, although you'll see that actually what you can do is probably get away with a handful, like 4 to 6 dice, because you can roll multiple dice again, sort of multiple times as needed. But yeah, if you do have plenty of dice, then it's good to have a few. And you can see here I've actually got 18 there. Probably never need that many, but it's just all my red dice, I think. Right, so I've set up, so that's set up. Now, again, it's taken me ages to do this, isn't it? But you will be able to do, the whole of that setup in, 2 or 3 minutes probably. Or you might want to spend a bit longer thinking about that than I did, but it's done pretty quick. Okay, now I can face mine in a direction, of course, but for now I'm just going to face them up on the basis I can turn them. So now we do this artillery phase. This is rolling artillery barrage. So, the artillery coming out up the map over the top of these guys, and we're running up behind it. So this is once per game. Okay, I'm only doing this once after the initial setup. So I do this now. So in future, a turn in future starts here, just below it, and sort of goes like that, repeated. So we're only doing these things up here once, obviously. So it says conduct 1 attack on every German unit with 66. Okay. So it's a pretty strong attack. But it does say cover effects apply as usual. Now the trouble is with German setup is every unit always starts every mission in cover. They're always in a trench, or in the trees, or in a bunker, or sometimes in a crater, but usually in trenches and bunkers and trees and things. So in terms of cover down here, it says, you've got the modifiers table down here, it says cover, defender in a bunker -2, defender in other cover -1. Okay, so what we do then is we take our 66 and we're going to work this artillery. Generally in the rules it says that we would do this from front to back. It doesn't really matter, you can do it in any order you want, but you need a way of just remembering which one you've done. There's no point randomly picking them out, and the barrage goes that way, so the rules suggest that you sort of do this row, then this row, then this row, just working across from left to right, whatever, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to start by hitting this guy here. He's in a trench, so the 66, because the cover is -1 in defender in other cover, so not a bunker, is -1. What that means is we just take 1 die away from that attack, so it actually becomes 5d6. That's all the cover does. Yeah, it just takes away a die. So we've got 5d6 attack on this guy. Now in this game, when it comes to attacking, it's really straightforward. Yeah, to pin a unit you need to get at least 1 6, and to hit a unit you need to get 2 or more 6s. Okay, and there's a reminder of that down the bottom here on each mission page. Okay, so to pin I need a 6, to hit I need 2 6s. No other result ever counts. So you can see straight away that on some attacks I might be rolling, say, 10 dice. You can see how it'd be very easy to roll 5, pick out the 6s, and then just sort of roll another 5 or whatever, and just keep a note in your head about how many 6s you've rolled. But again, you can do that if you haven't got enough dice. So I'm doing a 5d6 attack on this rifle. So let's just now whiz across. So they're all going to be 5d6, all these guys in cover. But the 2 MGs in the bunkers, of course, will be 4d6 because they get a cover of -2. So I'll just do those now, and you can see how this works. Okay, so this is the artillery barrage sweeping over the trenches. My guys are going to then run up behind. Okay, so let's go. So the first rifle guy here, I've got a 6. Got 1 6 there. Hope you see on the camera. I think you can see those dice kind of here. So he's pinned. Okay, so using the counters that come with the book, I can just flip that over, and you can see it's sort of bright red, and that means he's pinned. All right. If you're using just your own counters or whatever, you can just put a red cube on it, or whatever you've got to signify that. The MG then next to him, again 5d6, has got 1 6, so he's pinned. And then the rifle next to him, oh, that's 2 6s, so he's hit, which means he's removed. So that rifle squad is destroyed, so I take him off the board. MG team there in the trench, I've got no 6s, so he is okay. In the bunker here is, remember, 4d6, because the cover is worth 2 dice removed, so 4d6 on him, and that's a miss. This rifle is in a trench, 5d6 on him is a miss. Come on, we need to hit more. We could do with hitting this sniper because they're particularly nasty. So 5d6 on the sniper, we've missed him. We missed him. Rifle guy next to him is pinned. Just flip him over. Rifle guy next to him is removed, he's hit. So successful artillery strike there. This rifle guy at the back is pinned with 1 6. And the rifle guy next to him is pinned. Rifle guy next to him is missed, and finally the MG in the back bunker there. 4 dice. It'd be nice to get him out of the way, I have to say. He's pinned. He's pinned at least. That's good. All right. Now pinning on the back row is particularly useful because if pinned units do sometimes retreat, and if they're on the back row and they retreat, then they're removed from the game. So there's a chance we might lose 1 or 2 of those with a bit of luck. So that's the artillery barrage. So that's once per game, and that then gives you your kind of real setup. So now we know what we're actually facing. So they've lost a couple of rifle units, and of the rest, about half of them are pinned, and that's probably about an average kind of go. I think on the statistics are given in the rules actually for the artillery barrage. I think it's about a sort of 60% chance or so of pinning a unit, and I don't know, 20-30% chance of removing it. So it feels like it's about right. Not particularly lucky, not particularly unlucky. Okay, so then we start the game proper and working our way through each phase in turn. And there are 3 phases to the game. There's the Canadian phase here, which says 1 next to it. There's a 2 here, which is the German phase, and then 3, which is the German events phase. Okay, which hasn't actually got a number next to it, but that's simply because the numbers wouldn't fit. Okay, but at least we got, as ever, these charts go in the order that you need to go in, so you can just work your way through them nice and easy, and you'll soon get used to it. Again, it'll take me a while to particularly go through the first turn, but before we know it, we'll be in the swing of it. So the first thing it says, orders. Remember, this is Canadian phase, so I go first. It says, so the first thing to do is ascertain the number of orders I've got this turn. So I get 2 for the sergeant. Okay, so just because my sergeant is here, and he has to be here because if the sergeant dies, look down here, it says you lose if the sergeant is killed or if all rifle units are killed. Okay, because the rifle squads are the sort of mainstay of the force. They're the ones that are going to get into the trenches and do the dirty work. If you lose all your rifle units or your sergeant is killed, game over. Okay, so particularly got to watch out for your sergeant, especially when you get into sort of missions 2 and 3. You don't want that to happen, and it's a bit frustrating if you lose your sergeant. So keep him away from snipers in particular, because snipers love sergeants, and preferably keep them away from machine gun fire as well. So I get 2 for him. Notice there it says 1 if pinned. So if he was pinned, I would only get 1 order there, but I've got 2 for the sergeant plus 1 for each unit in the same or adjacent tile as the sergeant. So simply go like this. I get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You see how that works? So 2 for the sergeant and then 1 for each of the units which are either in the same tile or on an adjacent tile. And again, adjacency works diagonally, so that would be any of these 5 tiles around here. Okay, so 1, 2 for the sergeant, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. However, you'll notice this orders track at the bottom here only goes up to 9, and that's because orders are capped at 9. Okay, orders are capped at 9. And if you use the counters in the book, you'll get an orders remaining counter that fits nicely on there. So I'm going to put that at 9, just to remind myself that I've got 9 orders. Okay, then I'm going to use those orders to do things. Okay, so this is, as I say, this differs to some of my particular battles books of mine that you might have, where you sort of roll the dice to see what you can do. In this game, you can use those orders however you like. You have more control over it. Let's have a look at what those do then. So the orders we've got are move and or turn. Okay, so I can move a unit. So basically the unit can move 1 tile in any direction. Doesn't have to be facing that way. It can move any direction. And then turn to face. So I could move this MG here and then turn to face it up there to try and get rid of that MG or whatever. Or I can just turn to face a new thing without a new direction without moving. So that's what that is. Move and or turn. So move and turn or just turn. Either way, that's 1 order used. It says there 1 order. Okay, which means I would move my order tracker down 1. And there's a few rules on there about it. Says you can move diagonally. You can only move once per turn. So each unit can only move once. You can't have this unit go sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, using 5 orders. Each unit can only move, or each order can only use that. Sorry, each unit can only use that order once per turn. Okay. So you might want to use little counters to denote whether they've moved or not, but I don't tend to find it too problematic as long as I keep some kind of sense behind it. They can rally, so if they're pinned, I can try and rally them. We'll see how that works when I get a pinned unit. I can pop smoke, but only the grenade squad can do that. So this grenade thrower squad can lob a few smoke grenades if necessary to give me defense. That's what that's about in this game. Or I can call in a mortar strike. And I don't have mortar units on the board. I just sort of call it in somehow, the sergeant, you know, by, I don't know, signalling to somebody just off map or whatever, or behind probably more likely, just to get some mortar fire. And that will give me an immediate 66 attack. So 66 attack on any unit of my choice, subject to the usual cover rules. So again, you know, you'd lose 2 if they're in a bunker and 1 if they're in another cover, and so on. But again, you can only do that once per turn. Okay, you can rally as many times as you like and chuck as many smoke grenades as you like. You can only move once, and you can only once per unit, I should say. But you can only call in 1 mortar strike per turn. Okay, once we've done all that, then all my units will automatically attack the nearest unit down their line of facing. I don't have to roll dice. Well, I have to roll dice to see the success of those attacks, but I don't have to do anything to make them attack. They just will do that. All right, again, we'll deal with that when we come to it. So for now, I've got to work out how I'm going to use these 9 orders and where I want to get my guys to. Now, this MG here is pinned, which means he won't fire. So this column now looks better than it did before. This MG is also pinned, so he's not going to shoot there. He's also not going to turn and shoot down there, which he might have done. Remember, the range is 3, so he would have been able to reach that corner. So I'm less worried. What I've really got to do at the moment is get out of fire of this MG, because he's still there pumping stuff down here. And this sniper is also dangerous, firing down this track here. And he only shoots 1 unit, but if he shoots into this tile here, he would prefer this MG, then this grenade, and then this rifle. He would prefer my sergeant if he was there, but he's not. But that's, there's an order to that, which is on here. So stuff to do. These are probably okay. But what I'm going to do, though, is really just try to advance as much as possible, staying as safe as possible. So first of all, I'm going to move these 3 rifle units up here. Okay, I should say, you might have noticed that my rifle units have letters on them. In fact, all my units, apart from the sergeant, because there's only one of them, have letters on them. And that's really just for the campaign to help with the narrative if you want to do that. You don't have to, but, you know, as for example, as, you know, if you lose rifle B and then between missions you recruit a new rifle unit, then you might want to bring in the next one, which would be I don't know, rifle G, which is just off screen up there. So that, you know, when you get to the later missions, you can see that which units are still surviving from the original assault and which ones are new and so on. Just helps build a little narrative, I think. So I'm going to move all those up there. So 1, 2, 3 units, I'm going to move them up there. And the range is 2, so it doesn't really matter which way I face them because they can't reach any units. So I'm just going to leave them there. So that would be 3 orders used. Okay, so I slide that down there. Of course, I'm really doing them one at a time. Then I'm going to move all these away from here. What I'm going to do is move my MG there and turn it to face this MG, because I really want to get him pinned if I can. Not too worried about this MG because he's pinned. Removing units is quite difficult. You know, it's actually hard anything to roll 2 6s. You need quite a bundle of dice to have any chance, a realistic chance anyway, of doing that. So your aim really is to pin these things as much as possible and get your rifle squads up and in there as soon as you can. So he's going to go there, which will be 1 order. The grenade squad is going to move there, which will be another order. And this rifle team is also going to move up, and I'm going to point him towards this MG as well so that he's helping out with that attack. So that's another order. So that's 3 more gone. So I have 3 left. Now, I could call in a mortar strike to try and pin this guy with those 3 orders, which would be 6, 5. We get 5d6 on him, which is a fairly good chance. And if that doesn't work, we've still got these guys to pin him. They'll be rolling 5d6 because there's 4 for the MG and 1 for the rifle. You can see on there, 4 MG, 1 rifle. The red numbers are the attack numbers. But you would still lose a dice for the trench, so that would be 4 dice attacking him. So it's a good chance of pinning him. But of course, if I don't pin him, he's then going to open fire into all of these units here, because he'll shoot the nearest tile down his line of facing, but when he comes to that tile, he shoots at every unit in that tile. So I could, for example, move him up to there, because then if he does fire, he will only fire at this guy. They're always, you know, units always shoot the first tile that has units in down there facing, and they can't shoot beyond that. Not until he's killed them, and that'd be the next turn when he's firing down there. So that's one, you know, safety measure I could do, particularly to protect my sergeant. Or, of course, more aggressively, I could move all 3 of these up into here. And that would mean that I've got even more fire on him, because now I've got 2 rifle squads and my sergeant. You'll see he's got 2 dice there. So that's another 4 dice, which would be added to these 5. That's 9. They're also shooting from 2 different angles, and we'll deal with that when we come to it. That's called crossfire, and that adds another dice. So that would be 10 dice on him. Then he would get benefit of the trench, so he'd be back down to 9. So lots of things to think about. And do you know what? I think for the purpose of the video, maybe it wouldn't be quite this aggressive always, but I'm going to be... Oh, am I? Hang on, think about that. Let's pull back a bit, because I've just spotted this MG here. Forgot about him. So he's firing down there, but there's a decent chance that he could turn on the German go and fire down, because he's not firing at anyone. He could turn and fire down here. Now, 1, 2, 3, his range takes him to there. So again, if I've got units in here, that's problematic. I think what I'll do is, and it might not, again, might not be the best thing, but I'm going to do is going to push 2 units up into that. No, in fact, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to push 1 rifle squad up there, because that really helps with the attack on this MG. And it's only him to be hit, and if he fires at him, there's only the 1 guy. My sergeant's okay, this guy's okay, but I've still made some progress. Plus, that's 1 order used. Plus, I've then also got 2 orders left. And I can carry those over to the next go, because I'm aware that I've already split my squad here, or split my forces, I should say. So now the sergeant, I'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 orders, and that would still take me back up to 9. No, I don't need to get to 9 every time. It's just, there's no point using orders. I don't want to waste them, because you lose them if there are too many. So if I saved 4 and then got another 7, that would take me to 11, but you can't have 11, so you would lose them, and you capped at 9. So that order management is quite important, but I think I'm going to leave it at 2 orders for now. So I'm not going to call it a mortar strike, can't do it with that. I could chuck some smoke with those last 2 orders, but the grenade squad is here, so they can only put, remember they have to put it on a tile with a Canadian unit on it, so you can't just lob the smoke here. He's got to throw it sort of in front of or around one of his own units. So the only place he can do it is on his own tile, and they're not being threatened by anybody. This MG is pinned and this rifle can't reach, so I don't need to do that. It'd be a waste of orders. So that's my first turn. Right, so again, you can see lots and lots to think about, lots of different tactics, lots of different possibilities to how aggressive you're going to be or how cautious you're going to be. But for now, I think I'm going to leave it at that. So then we move on to the attack phase, Canadian attack phase. It says rifles, grenades and MGs attack the nearest German unit along their facing. And this is the key bit here. Perform all attacks on the same German unit together. Okay, and a note there that pinned units do not attack, or we haven't got any pinned units on our side yet, so that's irrelevant for now. Perform all attacks on the same German unit together. Let's see what that means. So what we've got to do, the easiest way of doing this, because at first sight sometimes you look and think, oh, especially when they get even closer to each other, you think, oh, it's a bit of a, who's shooting who and what's doing what. So the best way to do this is actually to go through the German units and determine which ones can be shot at. Okay, so for example, this rifle here can't be, because none of my units are facing him. This MG here can't be shot at. The grenade squad is facing them, but they've only got a range of 1, so they're not going to reach. Okay. This MG unit here can be shot at, we know, because we've got rifles, and we've got rifle squad here and then a rifle and MG here all pointing at him, and they're within range. Remember, rifles are 2 range and MGs are 3, so we can get him. This MG's too far back. This sniper's got no one pointing at him. This rifle squad here is too far back from the grenades. He's got nobody pointing at him. And these ones on the back row, too far out of range. Nothing's going to hit those. Okay. So in fact, it's only this German squad, MG team, I should say, that's being attacked. But we must perform all the attacks on him together. So we first work that out. Okay, so we've got an MG here shooting at him. Shooting at him because it's the first unit, or the first tile, so I should say it's a unit on the first tile which has German units on it down his facing and is in range of him. Okay, remember his range is 3, so it's in range and it's on a tile, so he will shoot this MG automatically. We don't have to, we're not deciding that, it's just what, it's what they're doing. So 4 dice for him. This rifle squad is also attacking this German MG. It's within range and it's the first unit down he's facing. So he has another die. Okay, that's 5 dice. This rifle squad here is also attacking this MG unit. These two aren't because they're out of range, of course. They're both range 2, so they can only reach here. This rifle squad is attacking this MG unit, so he adds another die to make it 6 dice. These guys aren't. We couldn't point them. Unfortunately, we couldn't get them to point. Shame he wasn't here because we could have pointed all them at him then, but we couldn't. Okay, so we've got a base attack of 6 dice. However, we are shooting from 2 different directions. If we look in the modifiers here, it says crossfire. For each additional direction of fire above 1, +1. So we've got 2 directions of fire here. You have one set of fire is coming from over here. These two are both the same direction, so they count as 1. And then we've got the rifle unit attacking from this direction. Okay, so we've got that. So we've got crossfire from 2 directions, which is 1 more than 1. Okay, so for each direction of fire above the first one. If this rifle wasn't here, they'd both be shooting in one direction. There'd be no crossfire. So you've always got to have at least 2 directions, but you get 1 dice for having 2 directions, and 2 dice for having 3 directions, and 3 dice for having 4 directions, and so on. You see how that works. So we add another dice. So that's why it's important to get this rifle guy in here. Yes, he only adds 1 himself, but he's now got crossfire. So this MG is now having to face fire from 2 directions. However, he is in a trench, remember. Okay, and for cover, defender in other cover other than a bunker gets -1. So we have to remove a dice. We're left with 6 dice. But that's not bad, is it? You'd think, on 6 dice, can I roll 1 6 to pin him? There's a chance of rolling 2, of course. So we conduct the attack with 6 dice, and we've got nothing. We've got nothing there. Okay, we've got nothing there. Which is a real shame, actually, particularly for this rifle guy who's being targeted at the moment. So that hasn't worked. So that's our attack phase done. Right, we'd then obviously do any other attacks, but there aren't any. So that's my whole phase done. We've worked out what orders we had. We used 7 of them. We've done our attacks, and now it comes to the Germans phase. So the German orders and attacks. So the German phase is basically 4 bits to it. First, the unpinned units will do stuff. That's these 5 that are unpinned. And then the snipers will attack if they're not pinned, which is not. And then the other units, so rifles and MGs, will attack. And then the pinned units will act. Okay, so you will notice there that the unpinned units attack, and then the unpinned units act, and then the attacks happen, and then the pinned units attack. So what we know, from pinning a unit in our phase means we know that they won't fire back in the next German turn. So that's why we know that these guys are safe here, because this pinned unit doesn't operate until after the German attacks have been done, and nothing in this pinned unit action chart here allows him to fire. Okay, he might rally, he might move, but he won't fire. All right, so which is why pinning is important. So let's start then the German unpinned unit. So again, it says activate units from front to back, then left to right, which you'll be familiar with in my other games. It's just a nice, easy way of remembering what you've done. So front to back, left to right. So we're going to go across that row, across that row, across that row. And we're looking only here, remember, for unpinned units. So that's the units which are not on their red side. So we're going to go him, 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 him. So we got MG here. What you do is you roll a dice and do whatever it says on this little chart here. Okay, so the MG there gets a 6. It says turn to face the nearest enemy unit. Okay, but only if it is nearer than any unit it's currently facing. All right, so this would turn to face the nearest unit, which won't be them because you can't face them. And we're talking about units you can actually turn and face. So his facings are the usual 8 directions. Those units there are equidistant away, but it does say, you'll recall, that it's only going to turn if it is nearer, not the same as, but nearer than any unit it's currently facing. Well, the unit it's currently facing is 2 away. These are 2 away, so it won't turn to do that. So it'll stay where it is. Okay? Makes sense, doesn't it? It's got a unit in range. It's, so in fact, it doesn't matter. It's in range. It's got a unit that's nearest to it. It's going to stay focused on that unit. Why look for anything else? It's got a unit to mow down here. So that's him done. Then we go to this MG here, roll the dice again. He gets a 5, which is the same result. 5 or 6 does the same. So again, he will turn to face the nearest enemy unit, but only if it's nearer than the unit he's currently facing. Well, he isn't currently facing any units, so the question then becomes, can he turn to face any unit at all? The answer is yes. So he does turn to face down there, and unfortunately, he's now facing my rifle squad, and I'm beginning to realise that that's probably a horrendous mistake, putting that poor chap on that crater there. It was a bit of a risk. I mean, we should have taken that MG out with 6 dice, but there we go. And then it's got tie break rules. We don't need those because he can only do that. He turns to face the nearest unit. Then we turn to this rifle here. He gets a 1. That says move. Okay, so he's going to move to the highest black numbered adjacent empty tile. Now, empty in this game means no units on it. Okay, not empty as in like this, just empty of units. So this guy is going to move to the highest black numbered adjacent tile. So he's only got 2 empty tiles adjacent to him. Remember, adjacency can be diagonal. That's got a 1 in it, and that's got a 14 in it. So he's going to move to the highest one of those, which means he moves there. Okay, so he comes up, presumably he's run around this trench to here. Okay, and it says, if so, which means if he does move, face the nearest enemy. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2. There's nothing down those facing, so he's got to face that way. Okay, and again, there are tie break rules if we need them. He's going to face those. Okay, not ideal because they're now in range of his attack. So that was him. Now we do the sniper. See what he does, and he gets a 3. And that says, if facing a Canadian unit in range, end activation. Well, he isn't. He's not facing any Canadian unit. Never mind one in range. So that would just end his activation if it was. So if not, which is what we're on now, treat as a 5 to 6 result. So he's going to do the same as those earlier units. He's going to turn to face the nearest enemy, but only if it's nearer than the one he's facing. Well, he isn't facing one. So the question then becomes, can he turn to face an enemy? Well, he can't, because down that way there isn't anyone, and down that way there isn't anyone. He's looking here, isn't he? So he can't face out of his 8 directions. In no direction can he face a unit. And yes, sometimes that can be, but if I get units past some, it can be backwards, can be sideways. But in this case, that sniper cannot face a Canadian unit, so therefore he stays where he is. Okay, and never do you re-roll for any of these things. If they can't carry out the order rolled, they do nothing, which is often the best thing for them anyway. So he stays where he is. So that's the sniper. And then finally, the rifle on the back row there, he gets a 1. So again, he wants to move, and it's only the 1 that moves them. The AI doesn't move around a great deal. We've had a couple of moves already on this go. Move to the highest black numbered adjacent tile. Well, he's only got 1 empty tile adjacent to him. Remember, note it doesn't have to be higher than the number he's on. So if that was 7 and that was 3, he would still do it. It's just moving to the highest empty, highest numbered empty tile adjacent to him. There's only 1, so he will move there, and then he will face the nearest enemy. Okay, 1, 2, 3 to these, but look down there, 1, 2, 3 to them. Okay, so always be careful of that. That looks further away, but that's because it's on a diagonal. It's still only 3 tiles to both of them. So we've got a tie here. It says on a tie, face the tile with the most enemies. Okay, well, that's got 3 on, and that's got 3 on, so that doesn't tie break it. Then select randomly. Okay, so we're going to say odds, evens. We got evens, and therefore he's going to stay there and face down here. Okay. And if it does say here, once they've moved, if it cannot face any enemies, if all these were, both those things were blank of enemies, then it just faces downwards, which is the sort of default position in many cases. But it always tells you in here. Just follow this really carefully. It's nice and clear. It doesn't leave any room for your own judgment. It'll tell you exactly what to do in every case. So that's their unpinned units phase. And then the sniper's attack. Well, they've only got 1 sniper team in this scenario. He's there, and we look down, he's facing, and you can see there are no Canadian units, and therefore he cannot attack. If he does, he attacks the unit on the nearest tile down he's facing that has a unit on it. If there's more than 1 unit, then there is a preference stated here. So he prefers unpinned units, and then if there is more than 1 unpinned unit, then he prefers sergeant, and then the machine gun, and the grenades, and the rifle. So he's looking for your sergeant. Remember, if your sergeant dies, the game ends. All right, so keep your sergeant out of I won't say range, because you can't keep out of range, but keep you out of the line of sight of snipers at all times. It's a frustrating way to lose. And then so that snipers, he won't attack, so he can't. Then we do the units attack phase, which is the same as the way we just did it for our own attacks. So we've got to go through the Canadian units and decide or determine which ones can be attacked. Well, these can't be attacked because nobody's facing them, at least not nobody who's not pinned. So yeah, all these, you just check very carefully, because sometimes you get a, it's like a game of chess almost. Sometimes you get a sort of bishop flying down the diagonal, don't you? Think, oh, where did he come from? So just watch out for, particularly MG snipers and things which might be at the back but can still reach. So just be a bit careful. They're all right. Remember, units can shoot through their own friendly units, but you can't shoot through an enemy unit. Just checking, I don't think, actually these guys can be, these guys can't because they're safely tucked behind this. So let's do this rifle guy next, because he's the one, isn't he, who's going to be in trouble. Unfortunately, we didn't pin this MG, so he's now going to get attacked by 5 diamond. Note that the German MGs are slightly more powerful than the Canadian MGs. Maybe, is that historically accurate? Maybe, from memory, I think it might be just, but really it's because they are defending, so they are, this guy is implanted in a trench, whereas this MG team is perhaps moving around a little bit, having to set up and what have you. So there's that factor sort of in that as well. All right, so 5 dice for this MG at this guy because he's within range and along his facing, but also there's an MG here, isn't there? Remember, range 3, so he's shooting him as well along his facing. So we've got another 5 dice coming in. Oh, that's bad. That's bad, that's 10. Also, from 2 directions, there is a crossfire bonus of 1 die. Yeah, 1 die. That takes it to 11. He is, fortunately, in a crater, which reduces it back down to 10. And I think what I'm doing here is just praying that he's not killed in action. Let's hope this squad survives. He's probably going to be pinned. Let's see what happens. We've got 2 6s there. Yeah, there are 2 6s there in the middle. So he is unfortunately killed in action. So I'm just going to put him up there out of the way. So he's gone. And now between missions, we can bolster to some extent, but not sort of fully. So for example, if I finish the mission with these 8 units, the relevant table will tell us between missions that we can't bolster that. If I go down to 7 units, I think that allows me to put 1 back on. If I go down to 6, I think I can put 1 back on. If I go down to 5, I might be able to put 2 back on, and so on. So it's a sort of reducing returns. I'm not going to start mission 2 with exactly the same number of units. It depends how well I do on this. I get to bolster, but the amount I get to bolster by sort of reduces, or rather the amount I get to bolster up to reduces as I lose more units. So it goes without saying, doesn't it? It's bad to lose units, is what I'm trying to say. If you're thinking, you'll just get them all back at the end of the mission, the answer is you won't. You might get some back, but not all. All right, so anyway, I've lost that rifle guy, which is bad for the first turn, to be honest. But anyway, let's keep going. This squad, this collection of units here, I should say, are being attacked by this rifle squad here, aren't they, of course? So he's, again, range of 2, shooting down this diagonal. And he will shoot all 3 of these. Yeah, do it. So he's got 1 die, and we would roll that separately for him, then for him, then for him. Okay. And obviously 1 die, you can't kill any of them, but he could pin them with a 6, so they're quite unlikely, but he could do. However, of course, these are all in cover, aren't they? So in fact, because they're in other cover, a crater, he loses that die anyway. So in fact, he doesn't get to roll any. So he's kind of firing the odd pot shot because we're safely tucked in this crater. He's got no chance of having any great effect on us, and we're fine. Okay, we're fine. So you can see, straight away, I think, how deadly the MGs can be, particularly if they pair up like that. How even rifles supporting MGs can be pretty deadly. Snipers can be pretty deadly. Rifles less so, although when you get close to them, they do have a tendency to chuck the odd grenade if you're unlucky, so you've got to be a bit careful with that. So that's there. I think just a quick recap on that. I think we've done the unpinned units, we've done the snipers attack, we've attacked with all their units. Nobody else can be attacked. Because remember, this MG, and it looks like now he should be shooting them, but he won't do that. He shot the rifle guy in there, didn't he? So they won't then shoot through to him. They've had their attack, and that was it. Okay, so then we do the German pinned units, because we're going to do the German pinned units. Okay, so we can see here there are only 3 options there: 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. So they can either take no action on a 1 or 2, which is a good roll for us. Or 3 or 4, they will try to retreat, and then if they do, they will rally and potentially change direction and so on. So that's can be okay, you know, gets them to retreat a bit, particularly on the top row, because they'll disappear off the map, which is good. So that can be good, but it can also be bad if they happen to retreat and then turn and aim themselves at one of ours, or they won't actually fire this turn. And 5 and 6 is a straight rally, which brings them back to fresh, which is bad. Okay, so we just go along the units, front to back, left to right, and just see what they do. So first rifle squad here gets a 2, that's no action. This MG gets a 1, that's no action, that's great for us. This rifle squad here gets a 6, so he rallies. This rifle squad here gets a 3, which means he retreats back off the map. This rifle squad here gets a 1, so that's no action. And this MG unit here gets a 3, which means he retreats off the map, which is excellent, which is why it's great to pin some of those back units using the artillery barrage, which is good news for us. Then the final thing to do on this turn is to do the German event. Now these are all bad. Okay, these are all bad. So 1 to 4 brings a mortar or artillery strike onto one of these red numbered tiles. In fact, onto several of them, which is bad. 5 and 6 brings reinforcements. 5 is a rifle squad, 6 is an MG team. Okay, so we just nothing we can do. It's all bad. We just roll the dice and pray. It's a 6. It's a 6. Okay, so they get reinforcements. Add a German MG team. So just grab a spare MG team. There's plenty of them in the counter set that comes with the game. And we're going to, it says, add a German MG team to an empty tile. Remember, that just means there's no units on it, with the lowest black number on it. And that's generally going to be towards the back. So he comes in. So the best way to do this is just to sort of count the black numbers from 1 to whatever until you find the empty one. So starting at 1, straight away we find that's empty. So he comes on there. And all new units, just like when they set up, all new units always begin facing down. It's like they've just arrived. You know, he's kind of come from a, I don't know, a trench back here or whatever it might be. And, you know, come through these trees, you know, he's like just assessing the battlefield situation. So he appears there. Not the best for us, but he is fairly far back and, you know, out of range for, you know, he's a range of 3. So we don't have to worry too much about him at the moment. But we could have done without it. That's for sure. And that's it for the first turn. Okay, so then we move to the second turn. We don't have to count the turns, but, you know, the next turn. So there's no turn counter, remember. So what we do then first is, remember, we don't do any of this anymore. The artillery barrage was once per game. Back to the orders. So we get 2 for the sergeant, yeah, and then we get 3 for this guy, 4, 5, 6. So actually we only get 6 orders because, of course, we lost the rifle guy who was there, didn't we? We thought we were going to get 7. We actually get 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fortunately, we held 2 over, so plus 6 gives us 8 orders for the turn, which is not too bad. We've got 8 units, so we can all be doing stuff if necessary. Now, I think I'm going to keep coming up here. I wanted to try and get a rifle squad into this trench to destroy this machine gunner. So yeah, let's do that. We'll do that. We'll come up there. I know they're being attacked by this rifle squad, but I can deal with that. And what I'm going to do is just turn them all in like that. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 units, 1, 2, 3 orders used. So they've moved and turned. Remember, that's the order, isn't it? Yeah, you can move and turn, or you can just turn. Either way, it's 1 order. And there's 3 of them, so that's 3 of those done. They're in cover still. Yeah, actually, might just want to show that a little bit just to remind myself. And they're pointing at him because I want to try and pin this guy. I'm still desperate to get rid of him. I'm going to leave my MG team, I think, there, because they're safe from fire. Yeah, but what I'm going to do is push these 2 up here, and they're going to attack that MG unit. I know it's pinned anyway. We've got a grenade here squad here, so we might be able to remove it. If not, the turn after that, hopefully this rifle squad will be able to jump in this trench and just get rid of that, and maybe work its way, I don't know, down there, or the snipe, whatever. We'll see how he gets on. So we'll put them there. That's another 2 orders. Okay, there's 3, 5 orders done out of the 8. Leaves me 3 left again. I could call in a mortar strike. Got to be careful, this sniper. If he turns, he'll be sniping these guys. Okay, the rifle squads. So it's not, I hate to say it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? It's better than losing an MG team or the sergeant or something. But Still not ideal. So do I mortar the sniper position? The trouble is I've now left my sergeant pretty isolated down here, so the number of orders is dropping. He's only going to get 1, 2, 3. So no, that's a no-no. Can't do that. I've got to move the sergeant. He's also in this MG fire, so I need to get that away. Can he be any use? Is a question really. Can he actually shoot anybody? He could go there and shoot the rifle squad, I suppose. Or does he come here and shoot the rifle squad? No, he doesn't want to go to the sniper line, does he? No, he doesn't want to go to the sniper line. Let's go there and just do that. And with both of those, that's 2 orders. Mainly to, not really, I mean, they've got a chance of pinning him, but mainly just to get them out of fire and also to keep at least a group of them together. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 orders there, assuming they all survive that. I'll keep this order here. I should just point out, these first 2 orders are red here. When you ascertain the number of orders, which I did a moment ago, remember it came to 8. If the total at that point is fewer than 3, in other words 1 or 2, which is why they're red, then you lose. Okay, so it does say that here, yeah. If total is now fewer than 3, game ends in defeat. So you just got to be aware of that. What that really means is that everything's petered out. You know, sergeants become too detached, you can't effectively order them anymore, and the attack's just faded. And again, it's a frustrating way to lose, because it's usually, until you get right down to the last couple of units, if that happens, it's usually something you can avoid. So, but I'm keeping them together to do that. And it's another reason also to try and keep 1 or 2 orders left over if you can, just in case you do forget about that. Okay. You know, for example, a sergeant on his own anywhere with no other units around him would only get 2 orders if he's not pinned, and that's not enough to, you know, to continue. So you've got to be careful. But you do add the previous orders first before you determine that win-lose condition. So you've got a lot of control over it. That's all I'm doing for orders. So I've ascertained the orders, I've carried out the orders. Again, I've not smoked there, no, it doesn't matter. Didn't need to smoke, can't do it now anyway. Mortar, no. Okay, then we're going to attack. Remember, we get to attack now, so auto attacks. So we've got a few bits and pieces going on here now, haven't we? So this MG is being attacked by these 2 units here, not this one because he's facing a different way, not them, not them. So this MG here is being attacked by my rifle squad, sorry, my grenade squad, which is my grenade throwers, I should say, there's 6 dice, and the rifle squad, which is 1 die. There's no crossfire because they're coming from the same direction, and the MG is in a trench, which means he gets 1 die removed for cover. The fact he's pinned doesn't change anything. All right, so we've got 6 dice. And he's already pinned, and if you pin a pinned unit, nothing happens. Okay, so 1/6 is no use to us here whatsoever. So I'm really only doing this because I might as well. I mean, I could have faced them to him, I suppose, and attacked him instead. Would that have made more sense? Maybe it would, but I mean, there's a chance of getting rid of it. 2 6s is not beyond the realms of possibilities. Let's try. Probably owed a bit of luck. We only got 1 luck. Yeah, we only got 1 there. So he's pinned. He's pinned, so he's pinned. He's pinned again, but has no effect. All right, let's move on. Let's do this rifle next here. He's being attacked, isn't he? Just by the sergeant and the rifle squad. So we've got the sergeant, we've got a rifle with him. That's 3 dice. Okay. You know, sergeant is kind of sergeant with a couple of guys with him perhaps, and also his influence on other units is why he gets 2 dice. Okay, so we've got 3 altogether for the sergeant and the rifle squad. That's 3 dice. Again, they're coming from the same direction, so we've got no crossfire. So really, the best we can hope for, I think, here is a pin. See if we can. Oh, hang on, he's in a trench, isn't he? So it's down to 2. So the bet, yeah, I think unless we get a double 6, the best we can hope for is a pin, which we don't get. So that's a miss. And finally, this MG, which I really, really want to pin, is being shot by 1 MG over here. That's 4 dice. And over here, we've got 3 rifle squads. Okay, so that's another 3. That's 7 dice. And it's 2 different directions, so crossfire is 1 die. He's in a trench, so we lose that one. But we've still got 7 remaining. This has to be a pin, isn't it? It is a pin. Okay, we've got 1/6 there, and therefore this MG is pinned. And that gives us a chance then next turn to get a rifle squad into that trench and get him removed, which will be helpful for this flank generally. All right, so reasonably successful. and we're making good progress, I think. We've lost a unit, that's a shame, but let's see how it goes. So that's our attack. So then we do the German orders attack. So again, German unpinned units first. Let's whiz through these a bit quicker. So this rifle goes first. He gets a 1, which means actually he's going to try and move. And he can, because there is an empty tile there, which is quite a bonus for us in a way, isn't it? Because actually it wouldn't really make much difference if he shot them, but whatever. So he moves to an empty tile with the lowest black number on it. So he's, say even though that's lower than the one he's on, doesn't matter. He will move. So hang on, let's get this right. Move to the highest black numbered adjacent tile, empty tile, right? So there's only one adjacent empty tile with a black number on it, which is this one. It doesn't matter that that number is lower than the one he's on. It's still the highest empty adjacent tile. So he will move back there, and he will face the nearest enemy unit, which is these two here. So he's actually gone back to perhaps help this machine gunner out here. Okay, so that's what he's done. He's just slightly not always predictable what these guys are going to do. So that was him, he was there, remember. So then we're going to work across this row, remembering we've already done that rifle there. So this MG gets a 3, which means he wants to turn and face, but only if he hasn't got someone in range. He hasn't got someone in range, so therefore he turns to face the nearest unit, but he can't because there are no units on either his facings or any of his facings, so he stays where he is. He's already been. The sniper gets a 4, which again means he will stay there if he's facing a unit in range. He's not, and therefore he will treat it as a 5 to 6 and turn to face the nearest enemy, but only if it's nearer than a unit he's currently facing. Well, he can and he will turn that way. So he will turn to face my 3 rifle squads over here. Okay, they are the nearest he can, in fact, they're the only ones he can face. This rifle squad next to him gets a 6, which means he wants to turn to face the nearest enemy, and that's going to be, again, those, because that's the only one he can. So he's also providing support to this machine gunner. And this rifle squad here gets a 5, and he wants to turn to face the nearest, but only if it's nearer than the one he's already facing, remember, when he's already facing these, which are the nearest. So he won't do anything. And this, finally, this MG here gets a 6, and he will also turn then to face the nearest unit. He's not facing a unit. The nearest unit he can face are these down here. He can't hit them, they're well out of range, or at least they're out of range, his range is there, but nonetheless he will still turn to face them. Okay, which could be problematic for us, and we need to remember because he's right up there in the corner. So that's the unpinned units phase. Then the sniper will attack. This is the sniper here. It says sniper attack 6d6, remember, 6d6. Okay, it says attacks 1 unit. Okay, so unlike other units, he won't attack every unit in this tile. He will attack 1 unit. He attacks the nearest unit along the facing, okay, which is these 3. If there's more than 1, which there's 3, prefer unpinned units, well, they're all unpinned, okay. Then prefer the sergeant, there isn't one, MG, there isn't one, grenade, there isn't one, rifles. Okay, there is. So he prefers to hit one of these rifles, and there are 3 of them, so it doesn't really matter. We can just choose. I'll say he's going to shoot rifle E. Okay, he's going to shoot rifle E. Doesn't matter. Completely doesn't matter which one it is. And it does remind us here that it ignores all cover but not smoke. Okay, they're not in smoke, so they've got no smoke, and they don't get a crossfire bonus because they're shooting in their own little mini phase. Right? So he gets 66, ignoring all cover, and he's shooting rifle E. And the result of that is, of course, 2 6s. So we've lost our 2nd unit, and things ain't going great just yet. Okay, but I'm still confident. Still confident. We're making progress. That's the sniper attacks. Then remember, all the other units attack. So let's just see what can actually be attacked. These guys here are being attacked by 2 rifles. 2 rifles. They're not in cover either. So they're 2 dice. Plus 1 for crossfire because of 2 different directions. That's 3 dice. So we've got to do these, remember, on each unit. There's nothing else attacking them, is there? No, there's nothing else. Just 1 rifle, 2 rifles. So you can see rifles can be a bit dangerous, especially when there's 2 from different directions and we're not in cover, which really makes a difference here. So I'll do my rifles first. So the rifle unit, they've missed, so he's fine. And the grenade unit, they've missed as well, so he's fine. He's fine. Remember, it was 1 6 to pin, 2 6s to kill or hit, remove. So that's them done. He's not being attacked by anybody. The rifle A and B are obviously, the sniper's already done. We don't do him again. He's done. So they've just got this rifle squad here, but they're in cover, so that one die will be ignored because of the cover, so we don't need to worry about that. And the sergeant and the rifle squad back here are not being attacked because this MG can't reach them, and that rifle can't reach them. Well, these are in the way anyway, so they're fine. Okay, so that's the end of the attack phase. Then we do the pinned units again, remember? So here we go. This gets a 1, which is a no action. This guy gets a 6, which is a rally. Well, that's all right, actually, because we're going to get rid of him, hopefully, in a minute. This MG here gets a 3, so he wants to retreat. Okay, so it says, move to the lowest black numbered adjacent empty tile on the next row up. So he's looking for an empty tile. One of these 3 here would have to be, wouldn't it? Because they're the only adjacent tiles on the next row up. Okay, there or there. But there's no empty tile, so he can't move, so he stays where he is and nothing happens. If he could move, he'd go back, he would rally, and then he would face the nearest unit. Remember, if you're on the top row, you disappear, as we've already seen. So he doesn't do anything, in fact. And finally, this rifle at the back here gets a 2, which is a no action. So you can see that part of this game is about getting on as quick as possible before all these units come back, before they rally and before the reinforcements come. The artillery, all the artillery fire, and including the artillery barrage itself, what it did in the attack in the Battle of Vimy Ridge is forced German units deep down. They dug sort of tunnels and underground bunkers and things. It pushed a lot of them down. Obviously, killed a lot of them, but also pushed them down into these bunkers and that. It took time to re-establish fire positions and so on. And that's what we're trying to do here: get up into these trenches, particularly with rifle squads, before the Germans can rally their units, but also before they reinforce too many from the back. So that brings us on to the event phase. So again, remember, this is bad, and we've got a 5, which means there's another reinforcement. This time it's just a rifle squad, fortunately, and it goes on an empty tile with the lowest black number on it. So again, we can go 1, 2, 3. That's there. So this rifle squad again has come here, or it's come up from an underground bunker, or hidden in this bunker, whatever it was. It's come out and it's going to go on there. Remember, it starts facing down the map, as it says here. Place new units facing downwards. Okay, so they've reinforced again. We need to push on. What we've done, what's been good so far about this, there have only been 2 turns, but we have there's been no German mortar fire. Okay, so this is an event. If you roll a 1 to 4, you get mortar or artillery fire, and that's a 66 attack on every unit on every tile with a matching red number. So you can see, for example, if I rolled a 3, it'd be 1, 2, 3, there are 4 tiles with a red 3 on, so they'd get 66, 66, 66, 66, and within that tile it'd be an attack on both of these. 66 on him and 66 on him. Right. There is one caveat here for mortar fire, and it does say that the sergeant cannot be killed by mortar or artillery fire. So if we do 66 here, he could be killed if they got 2 6s. The sergeant can only be pinned, so if you get 2 6s, we treat it as a pinned result. The reason for that, whilst it's realistic that the sergeant could be killed by mortar fire, obviously, the reason for that is because in terms of gameplay, it's not fun at all having your sergeant killed and therefore losing the game because a mortar shell lands on him. Having the sergeant pinned is bad enough in itself because it affects the number of orders you get and so on, slows you down. But we've seen the sergeant can be killed, can be killed by sniper fire, MG fire, grenades and all sorts of other stuff. It's only that mortar fire that he's protected from. All right, that's the end of the turn. So back to the start, we're ascertaining orders again. So we're looking for 2 for the sergeant, 3 for him, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, we lost a unit, didn't we? So we're not getting quite as many as we thought. We got 5. We carried 1 over. That gives us 6. And we're above 2, so we're okay. We haven't lost, which is good. And then we go again. Okay, we've got to really seriously push in here. I've got to really seriously think about what we're doing here. I think what we're going to do is use an order rather, to push a rifle squad up into there. And remember, that's an auto kill. Rifle squad moving onto any German unit is effectively a successful bayonet close combat charge, or attack if you prefer. So he takes him out. I'm going to face him to the sniper for now. I'm aware he's in trouble there, so we've got to think about maybe doing something about that sniper. What else am I going to do? I am going to see, I've just got to push the sergeant up to there. He'll support that attack then as well. And also just keep collecting as many orders as he can from over that direction. He's protected from the sniper because the sniper will snipe this guy. So he's okay there, I think. So that's 2 orders done. Okay, what's happening here? Right, yeah, we need to also, don't we, get this rifle squad into there. So they're going to charge into that trench and take that machine gunner out. Although, again, running straight into other machine gun fire. It's a bit of a sacrifice. What is he going to do? Does he turn? There's really no point. Oh, he might as well turn that way, really. Might as well just turn that way and attack the sniper, because he's only got one. Although that does depend on what we do with this grenade squad. Do we push him up as well? We probably do, don't we? Let's push the grenade squad up. So yes, decisions. Do we then? I can still think about where to turn him from his move. Do we go like that and hope to? That would be 7 on him, but he's going in a bunkers. That would be 5 dice on him. That's pretty good, isn't it? I'm just concerned this sniper's only got 1, 2, 3, 4 dice on him, -1. He's only got 3 on him. Or do we go all out sniper? Do we mortar and not bring the grenades up? Snipers on him. No, let's do that. That's probably the best way. This leaves us 2 orders still. Okay, so far we've done 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves. That's, we had 16 moves, so we've got 2 orders left. Right, we could drop a bit of smoke here. I'm going to do that really just to show how it works more than anything, I think. So I've got 2 orders left. I'm going to use those 2 orders. Smoke, 2 orders, grenades only. Okay, and onto their own or adjacent tile with a Canadian unit on it, or units, and then you remove it at the end of the turn. So what this grenade's going to do is just pop smoke onto its own tile, and that will protect the grenade and rifle squads from this machine gun fire if we fail to pin it or remove it. It gives them smoke here, smoke, defender and smoke -2, and that's in addition to the trench cover, so it would give us a 3 cover in total, which has got to be helpful, hasn't it? It's got to be, yeah, let's do that. Aware I'm not carrying any orders over, but fairly confident I'm going to get more than 2 next turn, although I'm struggling a little. Right, so that's me done with the orders. So then we get to attack. So we've got, let's not forget him actually. He's attacking there, isn't he? So we're going to do this MG first. So he's got 6 from the grenade squad plus 1 from the rifle squad. They're both in the same direction, so there's no crossfire. And he's in a bunker, which means there's 2 dice come off. So 5 dice. Come on. Just give me that 6. Give me that 6. Oh dear, oh dear. That's very unlucky. It's very unlucky, not having much luck pinning these machine gunners. Good job we did the smoke. So that's him done. Who else is being attacked? The sniper's being attacked. Let's try and get him done. So we've got rifle squad. Remember, you can shoot through your own units. So as long as they're shooting somebody in range down their own facing, we just ignore our own. We're shooting past them. So he's got another rifle and the sergeant. So that's 4 dice. He's in a trench, which means it's 3. There's no crossfire again. I suppose from an efficiency point of view, it would have been better to turn that rifle unit to face him, because then we'd have got a crossfire bonus, wouldn't we? We'd have got more total dice in all those attacks, but never mind, we've done it now. So 3 dice on him, and looking really for a pin at best. Can we get that? No, we can't. Oh dear. So we missed that as well. Anything else? He can't reach. He can. 1, 2, 3. He's shooting this rifle guy. So we've got 4 dice from this machine gunner. And he is shooting this rifle who's in a trench. So that's 3 dice on him. Whee! Got that at last. We've got 2 6s. So he's actually destroyed by that. Some great shooting from the MG team. All right. That's our attacks. On to the German unpinned units. We're going to go across and back as usual. So this MG team gets a 4. Well, he's already got, it says he's facing a Canadian unit in range. Don't do anything, so he won't do anything. He gets a 2, which means, oh dear. gets a 2. Oh, that's bad. This is the only roll that does that and the only situation that does it. So 2 is grenade. Remember, this is rifle squad here. Rifles only. Well, that's what he is. Attack each enemy on the adjacent tile it is facing. That's these two with 6d6. So unfortunately for us, this rifle squad here have some grenades laying around and they're lobbing them into this trench where we are. So each of these units is going to face a 6d6 attack. Okay, they can't get any crossfire bonus, so we don't have to worry about this MG. They've, but still 66. However, we do get the usual. So we're in a trench, so that takes 1 off. Okay, so the grades have got to be reasonably accurate to get in the trench. And then we take 2 more off because we've smoked the area a bit. So in some way that smoke is, hiding us, or, our exact position at least. So that takes another couple of dice off. Bit of a random attack. So they're lobbing a few grenades in our general direction. They're down to 3 dice per unit. So confident we're not going to lose anyone, but even a pin, because we're quite far from the sergeant, that makes a difference when we're trying to rally. We'll see how that works. Probably if we get pinned at some point. So let's do the rifles first. So my rifle squad is pinned. It is pinned. Oh, that's terrible, because we want him to move next turn into there if he survives. And the grenade squad is not pinned, so they're okay. They're okay. So good job we put that smoke on. It really is. Remember, at the moment we're just doing the unpinned unit. So we're now onto the sniper. He's got a 4. He has someone in range, so he won't do anything. Rifle here gets a 3. He's nobody in range, so he will turn to face the nearest. So he turns to face this guy. MG at the back gets a 4. He has nobody in range. It says if facing a Canadian unit in range, end activation. 1, 2, 3. He hasn't got anyone in range, so he treats it as 5 to 6. Turn to face the nearest enemy, but only if it's nearer than any unit it is currently facing. Well, it can't face any other units, so it'll carry on facing the way it's facing. And finally, this rifle in the top right there gets a 3, and he has a unit in range, so he will stay where he is. Okay, and then we do the sniper attack, of course. So this guy shoots the nearest unit on a tile here. So 1 unit on this tile, there is only 1, so he will shoot him. And remember, that's a 66. He ignores cover with his pesky scope and careful aim and steady nerve and all that. So he's got 6 dice at him. And he has pinned him. He has pinned him. So we are now really being slowed down. And the things are really taking a turn for the worse, to be honest. So the rest of the units attack, and we need some good outcomes here. So these guys are being attacked, and they're being attacked by an MG and a rifle, which gives them crossfire bonus. Nothing else is attacking them, but we're in a trench, and we have smoke, which brings it down to 4 dice. Not ideal. So the rifle, who's already pinned, is fine. Remember, a pin wouldn't do anything anyway. He needs 2 dice for 2 6s there, really. And the grenade squad, who you really want to stay fresh, please, does stay fresh. So they've missed. They kept their heads down well. And the smoke has served its purpose exceptionally well, actually. So what a great idea that was. Good move. Even though I say it myself. Okay, any other attacks then? He's not being attacked by anybody. He is, although he's been sniped already, he is also being attacked by these 2. We don't ignore that now, remember, but these 2 units here. So that's 2 rifles. There's no crossfire, but we're in a trench, so they only get 1 die. We're already pinned, which is the best they can do, so there's no real point in, missed anyway, but they could only pin him anyway, and that does nothing. And then we've got these guys here who are not being shot at, and he's not being shot at, so that's it. That's it for attacks. Then we move on to the pinned unit phase. So this guy gets a 1, which is no action. So he's still pinned. I think he was pinned by the artillery, wasn't he, at the start? I'm rubbish. And then the guy at the back here gets a 3, which means he retreats off the map, which is good for us. Every little helps at this stage. We're beginning to push them back. It's always worth persevering in this game when you think things are going bad. And conversely, when you think it's a walk in the park, it can very suddenly go very wrong. So, stick with it. Remember, you do get a chance to bolster forces a bit between missions, so that does help. So, you know, although we've got two more of these to do in this campaign, you know, we still got a decent, you know, chance. We've just got to play the game correctly and as well as we can. Right, so that's that done. Then it's German events. I can feel a mortar strike coming at some point. Oh, it's a 5. It's another reinforcement. Wow. All 3 events have been reinforcements. This is another rifle squad. So we take the lowest. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's going to come in there. So again, reinforcing from the trenches above the ridge. And he's into that trench facing downwards, remember. That's the end of that turn. Back to us. Back to the orders. Sergeant gets 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so pinned units still count. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 5 orders, and you can see how we're beginning to struggle a little bit with the orders count. Oh, sorry, the smoke dissipates. There's one thing I just didn't manage to squeeze onto this chart this side here, but it's quite easy to remember. Yeah, just remove the smoke at the end of each turn. Okay, so that's gone. Only lasts 1 turn. So we've got 5 orders. So we've got to think about what we're going to do. Now, rallying, let's talk about rallying. To rally, it's 1 order to rally. It says to succeed, roll higher than the distance from sergeant plus 1 if the sergeant is pinned. Okay, so for example, this unit here is pinned and he is 1 distance from the sergeant. Okay, so I would need a 2+ on 1 die roll. Yeah, a roll of 1 die. I need a 2+ to rally him and it still costs 1 order. Okay, if the sergeant was pinned, then it would be, the distance would be 1, and then it would be another 1 because he's pinned, so I would need a 2, that's 2, so I would need a 3+ to rally him. Okay, and in that case, it's usually best to rally the sergeant first anyway. Rallying the sergeant, of course, the distance is 0 because he's on the same tile as the sergeant, obviously, but he is pinned, so that's +1, so it would be a 2+ to rally the sergeant always. Okay, again, another example, unit here on the same tile, distance is 0. The sergeant is not pinned and therefore you need to roll more than 0. So that's an auto rally, but it still costs an order to do it. All right. So that's another reason to keep troops bunched, not only to get orders, but also to help with rallying. But you can see it's not always easy to do that. And your troops can get split by machine gun fire, snipers, you know, mortar fire, all sorts of stuff. So it's not as easy as it sounds to keep your troops together. So we got him to think about rallying, and I want to rally him because I want him to get rid of this sniper. So the first order is going to be, and I find it best to take the order off and then do the order, otherwise you tend to forget where you are. So let's spend the order, then we try and rally him. We need a 2+. Good Lord. We got that. He rallies. That's it for that order, and then he can act as normal and he will, you know, attack in the attack phase and so on. So for another order, we can then order him to move into this sniper position and at last take out that pesky sniper and think about where he is then going to face. And I'm not sure it's really going to make a massive amount of difference, is it? I think I'll have him facing that way actually, so, you know, firing along this trench. Although it's depicted as being sort of along the trench, these trenches, I tried to reflect it a bit in the graphics, but the trenches were generally, you know, if you get them up on Google Images and stuff, the trenches on Vimy Ridge were very, like many trenches are, you know, made not straight for that exact reason. So when the enemy gets in, they can't just, you know, machine gun you all down straight down the trenches. So, you know, the idea is that you still get your cover bonus, even though it looks on the graphics like you shouldn't. Okay. So with these both still get -1 die for being in cover. So he's going to go there. We've done that. That's down to 3. That's 2 orders used. Now this is the nuisance because I really wanted to rally him so he could get into this bunker, which not only gives him the protection of the bunker, but also gets rid of this blooming machine gun. However, he is 1, 2, 3 away from the sergeant, which means I need a 4+, which is only a 50-50 chance, and I can just see my orders getting eaten up. Now I can try it as many times as I want till I'm successful, but every time I do it, it takes up 1 order. So it's not ideal. I could move the sergeant closer and then try and rally and then move in. I've got enough orders to do that. Or do I just drop a mortar on there? Which of course would only be 4 dice because he's in a bunker rather than 6. So that's not ideal either, the way I've been rolling on these mortar fires and things. big decision. Okay, I've still got grenades on him, haven't I? Let's try the other way. Let's move. No, hang on. If I move my sergeant there, he's then in the fire of this MG, isn't he? I could put him here, but he's got a small risk of being grenaded. Do I take that risk? 1, 2, 3. Actually, I could move him there, couldn't I? Because that's then 2 away. It just seems a bit of a retrograde step. It's not very brave, is it, Mr. Sergeant? Tell you what, I'll move him there. I'm going to move him there for 1 order and hope to help pin this guy, although the chances look pretty slim. So he goes there, and then on my penultimate order, I'm going to try to rally him. He is 1, 2 away, so I need a 3+. Come on. Come on. Yes. Get a 5. He's rallied. He's rallied. And that means that on my final order, I can order him to charge into this bunker. Yeah, charge into this bunker. So he's got a cover protection of 2 dice. And he might as well, it's a shame he's wasted now, but there we are. 1 more order would be nice to twist him, but never mind. So what's he going to do? There's not much point. He's only got 1 dice and all these are in cover, so it won't do anything. He might as well just stay there for now, pointing at that MG. Okay, so that's me done. I ought to just check this actually. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're only getting 4 orders next time. It's getting a bit close, particularly if I lose some of these. But I should be all right. I don't think I'll lose him. Should be okay. Right. That's me done. So then we attack. So have we got any attacks actually worth doing? Say that's 1 die on him, but he's in tree, so I'll lose that. He's facing him, so he's not doing anything. He's not facing a German. Yeah, we've got him, haven't we? And that's it. So just him to be attacked by these 2. So we've got 1 rifle and the sergeant, and we have crossfire. So that's 1 die. So we've got 4. He's in a trench, so that goes back to 3. Come on. Pin just to put my mind at rest so he can't grenade him. We've got that. We've got that. He's a pin. He's pinned. He's pinned. He's pinned. That's good. That's good news. It's good news. Good news. Okay, that's my attacks done. On to the German units, unpinned units. So they're getting a little bit thin, aren't they, on the ground? So this guy gets a 3. He's already facing a unit. He'll stay there. This MG gets a 2. So what happens there? Remember, he tries to throw a grenade, but that's rifles only. So he can't throw a grenade. He can't do that. He forfeits his activation. Stays where he is. This rifle guy gets a 2. Blimey, we get a lot of 2s. But fortunately, he's not facing a Canadian unit. Remember, they just grenade into the square in front of them, down there facing. Well, there isn't one, fortunately. And finally, this guy gets a 1, which means he wants to move into the highest numbered empty adjacent tile, which is that one. And then he'll face the nearest unit. Well, the only unit he can face is that one, so he'll face down there. Even though it's out of range, still face it. Then the snipers attack. Well, the sniper's gone, so he's not going to do that. Then the units attack generally. Well, this MG's not reaching anyone. He's being hit by 2 rifles. I think that's it. He can't reach one. He's pinned. That's it, isn't it? So it's just this grenade squad. They're being hit by 2 rifles. But I'm in a trench. So it's down to 1. And there's no crossfire because they're on the same facing. So 1 die. Need a 6 to pin me. Unfortunately, they've just failed to do that, so he's okay. And then we move on to their pinned units. So this rifle guy here gets a 3. He wants to retreat, but he can't because there are no empty tiles behind him. He can only move to there or there. If he did, he would unpin. He would rally, wouldn't he, of course, but he can't do that, so he's again stuck there. This guy gets a 2, which is a no action for a pinned unit, so he remains pinned. Good. Good, good, good. Come on. Oh, German event. Oh dear. Oh, that's good. No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, so this time it is mortar fire. So what we do now is look at all the 4s, and generally you're going to find at least 3 or 4 of these. Okay, so you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so mortar fire, in it comes, or artillery, whatever you like, and fortunately it's peppered between my units, so none of those get hit. And we're fine. And of course that means no reinforcements, which is great. Okay, it can be a bit horrible, that mortar fire, but in this particular game we've been pretty lucky with that. Instead they've been reinforcing. So that's that. Back to us, back to the orders. 2 for the sergeant, one for each adjacent unit. 2, 3, 4. Not great. We need to start getting, it's worth just taking stock, I think, and getting people up and back into the game, so to speak. Of course, what I've got to do is use one order to take this rifle into these trees and get rid of this machine gun nest. It has to be done. So they're in there with their bayonets. Brave guys. And that's that done. And now we're down to rifle squads only for the Germans. It's really just a sweeping up operation. So we can use another order for this rifle guy, and he might as well take out a rifle squad who's not pinned rather than the one who is. Remember, he doesn't have to, he can move, doesn't have to be down he's facing. Then he can face anyway, might as well face that one as well to help out, I suppose. We've got 2 orders left. Let's advance him up there to get him back in the game, and let's position my MG here, I think, because then he's shooting down this row here and he can shoot him, and then when he's gone he can shoot him. Or do we want to do that, or do we want to face and help this guy? Yeah, let's do that first. Let's put him there. And that was the final order. Okay, so that's me done, and then we get to attack, of course. So he is being attacked by 1 rifle, 2 rifles, and my MG, and we're coming from 2 different directions. So we've got crossfire, but he is in the trench, so we lose 1. 6 dice, and he's pinned, which is a good result at this stage for us. All we really need. These rifle units on their own, they're nice and spread, they're pretty useless unless they can get some kind of, you know, sometimes they all, if they're not pinned, they'll all spin and face a particular unit and get some crossfire going on, but that's not going to happen now, I don't think. Again, the grenade team, we've wasted those a bit, but still not to worry. That's him done. So then we've got these 2. We've got rifle and a sergeant shooting at him. He's in a trench. That gives us just 2 dice, so we need a double 6 because he's already pinned, so pinning's no good. That's that done. He's not shooting anyone. That's it for us. German attack orders, so unpinned units, just him at the back there. He gets a 3. He hasn't got someone in range, but he can't turn to get anyone nearer than that, so he stays where he is. And then snipers, there aren't any, and then the units attack where he can't because there's no one in range, and then the German pinned units attack. So this guy gets no order, no action, this guy gets no action, and this guy gets no action. Fantastic, all done and dusted. German events, that's a 2. Ooh, that's nasty. We got a nasty little bit of German mortar fire right at the end. We got a machine gun around the open here. I didn't really think about that, did I? Maybe I should have. No, well, there's 66 on him. I really don't want to lose him. What? That is probably a bit of a mistake there, but never mind. I'll use the excuse that I'm on camera and it's difficult. And then this guy over here was also, remember, is all 2s. So rifle B, he is 5 dice because he's in rocks, he's in cover. Oh, and he's gone as well. Would you believe that? Well, that's pretty unusual. I mean, I know it seems quite likely to get double 6 with 6 dice or 5 dice, but it's really not. You know, you're talking about 20% chance or something. So, you know, 20-25% chance. It's unlucky, particularly if you lose both. It's crazy. I mean, again, I'll be able to restock. You know, a bit to bolster, let's say, between missions, but at the moment I've lost 3 rifle squads and a machine gun team, so I'll certainly want to bring that machine gun team back, or a new machine gun team to replace them. Anyway, we'll deal with that when we get there. Oh dear, it's taken the shine off this a little bit, I have to say. So that's that. So we're back to me again. So orders, we got 2, 3. Crikey, we only just made that, didn't we? Look. Ooh. We only just got past there. We really need to get these group back together. I'm not taking that bit of the game seriously enough. Although we were unlucky to lose, you know, of course we had a rifle there, didn't we, which would have added another bit of security, so we were a bit unlucky, but only 3 orders. So this time I think we're going to have to move. 1 is him to there. We're really just mopping up now with bayonet charges. Him into there is 2 gone. We've got 1 more, so I'm going to have to move my sergeant across here just to, you know, get more orders for next time. We then attack, and the only thing being attacked is this, with a sergeant and a rifle squad with a bit of crossfire, but he's in a trench. We've got 3 dice on him. We need double 6 to get rid of him. That fails. That's my turn done. And then we go unpinned units. So the guy at the top gets a 3. He will turn to face, because he hasn't got someone in range, he'll turn to face the nearest. So he'll turn to face 1, 2, it's him. Turn to face my sergeant, in fact. Then they will sniper attack, no, units attack, he will attack him. It's only 1 die, he's in a trench, so he'll lose that die. Then the pinned units go, so he gets a 4, which means he retreats to move back to the lowest black numbered tile. So he moves back to tile number 3. In doing so, he rallies, and then he faces the nearest enemy, which is going to be either him or him. Face the tile with the most enemies, where they've both got 1 on, so we do it randomly, so odd even. So he will actually face that guy. Doesn't really matter at this stage, but a bit of a nuisance anyway. So what I'm really concerned about now are these blooming events, of course, every turn. So this event is a 2, which is another mortar strike, but fortunately this time the 4 2s are there, they've missed, and we need to get that rifle guy out of there, don't we? My turn gets 2, 3, 4 orders. You can see how the game flies by, particularly in these later stages. And with those orders, what I'm going to do is get him out of those out of the mortar fire. That's 1 movement. I'm going to move him to there. That's 2. There's 1 more rather. I'm going to move him in. That's another 1. And I might as well move my sergeant there as well, actually, which is the one. Might as well get them all on the same guy, really. So that's them done. We then attack. So that rifle guy gets 1 rifle and a sergeant and a grenade squad and another rifle. So 10 dice, is in a trench, takes it down 1, but of course I get 2 crossfire because there's 3 different directions here, so that's 2 for crossfire. So I've got loads of dice here, 11 I think, on this rifle squad. He's gone, as you would expect. Got 3 6s there in fact. So all my firepower on him. That's the end of my turn. Unpinned units, what does he do? He gets a 1, he moves, crazy man. He's got a bit panicked and he's run out of his bunker to the highest black numbered tile. In fact, he's going for it, isn't he? Look, he's running to 12 there, and then he's going to face the nearest enemy, and if there's more than, if there's a tie, he faces the tile with the most enemies, so he's going to face that one. And then he's going to attack, but he's only got 1 dice, and that's going to be removed because we're in a trench, so he doesn't roll that. Remember, he would attack both of those if he could, but he can't. So that's him done. There are no pinned units this time, and then we have German events, which is a 1. The mortar fire comes into these 3 1s here, misses us all. We then go back and get 1 2 3 4 5 orders, and we only need 1 of them to nudge a rifle squad into there, and that wins us the game because we have cleared all enemy units off the mission map to progress to mission 2, and that's what we've done. Okay. And then I haven't got the chart, unfortunately. I should have printed it off, shouldn't I? But there's a chart then to look at between missions. So I'd now proceed to mission 2 with the 3rd Division, which is sort of the next stage up the hill for them, which would be campaign A still, but mission 2. And what I do is start that mission with the units I have remaining, which is a sergeant and 3 rifle squads and a grenade squad. Okay, but I look at that chart and it's a very simple chart. It just simply asks where you are in the campaign. So there's a chart for between missions 1 and 2, and then a chart for between missions 2 and 3. They're slightly different. I would look at the chart for between missions 1 and 2 because that's where I am. I would scan down and find in the remaining units chart, I would look for 5 because that's what I've got left. And then next to that there'll be a little number that will tell me how many units I can add. And I think from memory it's 2 that I can add to a 5-man team. So I would add 2 units. And all I can do though is add back the same type of units that I've lost. So let's just remind ourselves that what I lost was 3 rifle squads and a machine gun. So I can add back 2 new units, but of those types. Okay, what I can't do is add in a grenade squad, for example. I can never add a sergeant because there's only 1 in the game. Can't add a grenade squad. I can't add 2 machine gun units because that would be taking me beyond what I started with. So your choices are capped to some degree in, you know, by comparing to what you started with. Now, if you use these counters, the letters on the counters allow you to, you know, for example, I would want to bring a new MG team in because you've seen they're very useful for pinning and clearing the way. So I would bring one in. What I do is bring in this MGB team, and that tells me that, you know, as I go into mission 2 and 3, I can see that I lost my original MG team, but now I'm on MGB. But I can see from these, for example, that I've still got my original grenade squad because it's grenade A, and I've still got my couple of original, or 3 original rifle squads, A, C, and F, but I lost B, D, and E. And what I'd also do then is bring in a new rifle squad, and I would bring in the next one after F, which is G, isn't it? I've got a G, there it is. And I would bring rifle squad G in. And again, I would know that they're new guys. And yeah, it just helps to build the narrative. Of course, you don't have to do that. But, you know, then when you're charging through mission 2, you can see, you know, who's left then in mission 3, and you can see, you know, will you be able to get any of your original guys to the end of mission 3, other than your sergeant, of course, who you have to get there. It just adds another layer of interest. But you can see starting mission 2, which is inherently more difficult anyway. You know, you're likely to find a bunker or 2 more. You know, sometimes you might get an extra sniper on there. Yeah, just in other sort of discrete ways, they just get a little bit more difficult. Plus, of course, you are starting with fewer units, which makes a real difference, not least because, you know, the number of orders you can get. You know, the most orders you can get now are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can only ever get 8 orders in one go, although of course you can still save orders, so you could get to 9, but only by carrying orders over and so on. But you can see how that, you know, has an impact on the game as well. So there's no really, you know, if I'm using the counters, all I need to do now is bag these up slightly differently from the rest of them and just keep them separate, and remember they're my guides for the new mission. And if not, you just, you know, get a piece of paper and just scribble, or just on top of here or something, just put in pencil, just write down, you know, what you've got, which is simply, you know, 4 rifles, sergeant, grenade, MG. You know, it's literally all you have to write, isn't it? 4R, SG, MG. Job's a good one. Then you're ready to go when when you've got time to play the next one. So yeah, again, video took a while, but I've found that these games are playable in about sort of 30 to 60 minutes, usually quite comfortably within that. So somewhere in that range, depending on exactly what happens and how sort of bogged down you get. We got a bit bogged down in the middle there, a bit more than I thought or wanted to, and losing those 2 units at the end to mortify was pretty bad. If I hadn't lost them, then obviously I'd have had, instead of 5 units at the end, I would have had 7 units left if I hadn't lost those 2 to mortify. But then the chart would probably only allow me to add 1 back, so I would be starting the next mission in the campaign with 8 units rather than the 7 that I'm actually ended up with here. So you can see how that kind of scales a bit. So it's clearly best not to lose units, but the more you lose, the more you can get back, if you see what I mean, as a kind of, you know, ratio thing. So try to make it so that you're never in you're never in an impossible situation. I think the fewest you can start a mission with is 5, and that at least gives you some chance to have a go, albeit, you know, the odds are going to be fairly stretched. All right, again, apologies for length, and I think that's about it. So this will be, I'm sure by the time you watch this, will be available on Amazon as usual for a very reasonable price. And don't forget, I've done a video on how to make the counters, and at some point I'll do a quick flick through video, and I'll do a faster playthrough as well, no doubt. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers now.